This is the story of Mel Finleon, the world's greatest father, husband, and friend. A man of faith, a man that lived each and every day to the fullest. A man that gave every ounce of himself to his friends and family. A man that loved his country, and a man that showed this world unconditional love for 66 amazing years. Melvin Leroy Finleon was born on December 8, 1953, in beautiful Longmont, Colorado. Mel was immediately loved and adored by his parents, as well as his big brother Ron and sister Judy. From a very early age, he was full of love and laughter, and captured everyone's attention with his huge smile. For anyone that ever met Mel, the first thing you noticed was that big, beautiful smile. As a child, he was full of wonderment and extremely smart. This made baby-proofing extra difficult in his childhood home at 327 Judson Street. His parents had to watch him extra close because he was always on the move and loved exploring. One minute, he would be on the floor, and the next, he'd be standing on the countertops in the kitchen searching for snacks. What they loved most about him was his constant laughter and sweet demeanor. They could tell he was special, and they knew he would leave his mark on this world. In 1953, the world was a very busy and interesting place. Queen Elizabeth II was crowned Queen of England in an elaborate ceremony. The world watched as the brutal Korean War came to an end. Dwight D. Eisenhower was the 34th President of the United States, and musicians like Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra ruled the airwaves. The Colorado Front Range was a beautiful place to grow up in the early 50s. The population of Longmont was about 8,000 people, and the economy was based primarily on agriculture. Over the years, that began to change as things shifted towards more of a technology-driven society. Living close to the Rocky Mountains was right where Mel was meant to be. Mel loved to go camping, hiking, fishing, skiing, building forts, listening to music, joking around with his buddies, watching the Denver Broncos play football, and he loved to play sports. When it came to sports, he excelled at swimming, football, and running track. His family would often say he was like a fish because he was always in the water. He really loved to swim and competed in swimming from elementary school all the way up through high school. Mel made many good friends in and around Longmont and seemed to make friends just about wherever he went. Many of his Longmont buddies would become lifelong friends that he would keep in touch with even after he moved away. He had a great and playful personality and loved to joke around. Here he is in a tuxedo with his buddy Larry before his sister's wedding. One of the many great things about Mel was that he didn't take life too seriously, and he could always put things into proper perspective. He didn't sweat the small stuff and always welcomed life challenges. Mel's love of music led to him learning how to play the guitar as well as the piano. And once he learned how to play, he never stopped. When he was in his teenage years, he and his cousin Peggy would get together for hours at a time, singing and laughing together while Mel played the guitar. Interestingly, he never took guitar lessons or even formally learned how to read music. Mel was one of those gifted people that could listen to a song and then teach himself how to play it. His favorite guitarists were Eric Clapton, Stevie Ray Vaughan, and eventually Doyle Bramhall. Mel graduated from Longmont High School in 1972 and was ready to take on the world. After high school, the next chapter began for Mel as he went out into the real world to see what he was made of. Mel quickly enrolled in college while he worked at various jobs to make money. He put his swimming skills to use and became a lifeguard, and even took a job working as a cook for a local steakhouse called Mr. Steak. This is where Mel learned how to cook, and if you ever had one of his famous steaks or awesome chicken fajitas, you were sure glad he did. Mel always aspired to accomplish big things in life and was a very driven individual. He took courses in business management and computer electronics while in college. He didn't know it at the time, but both areas of study would become extremely helpful as Mel embarked on his new career with IBM. Mel landed a job on the manufacturing floor for IBM in May of 1978, working on some of the first personal computers in the world. This was a huge deal at the time, as IBM was one of the best companies in the world to work for.
To work for them.
Where you headed, Jeff?
A meeting with IBM.
Well, excuse me.
And if you've never worked with computers before, we'll teach you the basics. Soon you'll actually be able to demonstrate it to yourself.
Mel quickly worked his way to production supervisor and had 35 direct reports at one point while working on the RS-6000 computer and server platform. With his newfound success, he had to indulge a little bit, and he bought himself a brand new Pontiac Firebird. Look at that beautiful car. Work hard and play hard was a motto that he liked to live by. Mel eventually learned a lot about computers and how to make them. So much so that he didn't buy his computers from the store like you and I. Mel would build his own computers to make sure he had the best processors, memory, and storage and computing power as possible. As IBM grew, so did Mel in his career and his personal life. Mel married his first wife, Shelley Snyder, in December of 1981, and they were married for 17 years. He also had 2 children, but we will get into that later. As Mel continued to climb the corporate ladder, he noticed a correlation between career growth and hair loss, something he wasn't super thrilled about. Wow, would you look at all that hair in 1978? He eventually left manufacturing and joined the supply chain management organization as a buyer. Mel built relationships and managed hundreds of suppliers around the world to ensure IBM servers always had the parts they needed to further their technology. He worked as a buyer for the remainder of his career, primarily on servers such as the Linux, which enabled artificial intelligence and deep learning capability. At the time, this was cutting-edge technology and still is to this day. He loved the technology he was working on, as it was improving people's lives all over the world. IBM was very good to Mel and allowed him to move from Boulder, Colorado to Austin, Texas in 1992. A move that took Mel away from the Rocky Mountains, but introduced him to many more lifelong friends. After all, Austin was the live music capital of the world, and that was right up Mel's alley. IBM even gave Mel a full pension for all his contributions to the company over the years. This would come in handy for his retirement. Mel woke up super early every morning for 36 years and went to work for IBM. He loved the people he worked with, and he loved what he did. But that's not why he did it. He did it because he loved his family, and he wanted to provide for them the best way possible so that they could live an amazing life. He did it because he needed the resources to take his family on vacations, to show them the world, and enable them to experience the best this world has to offer. His goal was to provide his children with a better childhood than he had. Well, my friends, like every goal he set out to achieve in life, he succeeded. On September 25th, 1983, Mel's life changed forever. Mel became a father to a little boy named Kyle, and a few years later, father to a little girl named Christy. When Kyle was born and Mel went back to work, he ran up and down the production floor yelling, "It's a boy! It's a boy! I have a baby boy!" He was one proud papa, and he was proud of his children his entire life. Of all the great passions in Mel's life, nothing meant more to him than his children. Mel was not just a father. He was a best friend and a hero to his children. From a young age, he was always teaching his children about respect, hard work, integrity, kindness, compassion, generosity, and most importantly, love. He didn't get a lot of time with his father, so he was determined to spend as much quality time with his kids as possible. Mel loved being a hands-on dad and was completely immersed in his children's lives. He coached his son's soccer teams and helped his daughter, Christy, train to win her swim meets. The same lessons and principles he was teaching them on the field, he immediately applied to life off the field. He always made sure to highlight the overlaps between the two. There was one thing his children could always count on, and that was Dad's unconditional love and support. He taught them how to read, how to ride a bike, how to catch a baseball, how to swim, how to drive a car, how to hug, and how to love. When Kyle was a young boy, Mel took him hiking to Garden of the Gods in beautiful Colorado Springs. He loved to point out the neat rock formations and all the different types of wildlife. And when they would find themselves on loose footing, Mel would tell Kyle to take it one step at a time and always stay in control. A lesson that still applies to this day. And any time a Father's Day rolled around, all he really wanted was to have both of his kids by his side. Weekends in the fall, he usually revolved around a bowl of queso while watching football with his kids. Growing up in Colorado, Mel and the kids loved watching John Elway and the Denver Broncos. John Elway made a lot of great plays in his career, but the favorite play for the Finleon family was the helicopter play in Super Bowl 32, which led the Denver Broncos to a huge win over the Green Bay Packers. After watching John Elway and the Broncos for 15 years, it was amazing to see them win Super Bowl 32 together. Mel and Kyle jumped up and down and hugged each other as John Elway held that Lombardi trophy in the air. After they moved to Austin, they also became huge UT football fans. All right. Another special moment in their lives was watching Vince Young and the Texas Longhorns beat USC to win the national championship game in 2005. As his children became adults later in life, the constant love grew stronger than ever. Anytime they had a flat tire, got into trouble, needed a helping hand, or overdrafted a bank account, he immediately jumped at the opportunity to save the day. Seeing his children happy made him happy. He also happened to be the best handyman in the world. There was no project he could not complete, or no car he couldn't get running. He loved anything and everything that had to do with his kids. If they started at a new company or found a new hobby, he would immediately study up on the subject so he could relate and provide fatherly insight. This applied to their friends as well. He loved his kids so much, he went out of his way to build special relationships with their best friends. He always told them how proud he was of them, and that meant the world to them. I wish I could explain the love that Mel and his children shared together, but words simply cannot explain a love that deep. It is simply unexplainable. All I can say is that the love was divine, and it will last forever. Many people wonder to themselves, will my family know how much I love them if I unexpectedly pass away? Mel didn't have to worry about that. He told his children and his family how much he loved and cared about them every chance he could. And they loved him too. There was no higher honor than to be loved by Mel Finleon.
A friendship will never die. You're gonna see it's our destiny.
In 1998, Mel met a sweet woman by the name of Janet Pickle. He had to get creative to win her over, but once he did, their love and bond was unbreakable. Mel and Jan married at Mount Bonnell in Austin, Texas, on March 27, 1999. It was a beautiful private ceremony with Mel's children and Jan's children both in attendance. You see, Mel was over the moon in love with Jan, but he was also ecstatic to get two new sons in Kent and Keith. In true Mel fashion, he loved them as if they were his own, from the very start, and they truly enriched his life. He was extremely grateful to have met Jan and to marry into such a great family. And so the love story began. Mel and Jan didn't know what life had in store, but they knew they had each other, hand in hand, walking down the same path together. After the wedding and honeymoon, life began. Mel and Jan lived a blessed life together, as they enjoyed many of the same hobbies. They loved traveling the world and experiencing new cultures. Going on Caribbean cruises was one of their favorite things to do, and they must have gone over nearly 50 cruises in the last 21 years. They met so many wonderful people cruising throughout the years, and Mel always kept his sense of humor on board. He loved to make people laugh. They loved scuba diving, which brought them so much peace and fun. Mel always felt at home in the water. They loved going to live concerts at ACL to watch their favorite guitarists. They loved their trips to London and Paris, trips home to Mel's home state of Colorado, going to the movies, and spending time with their beloved dog Baka. They worked extremely hard, but they always made sure to have at least 1 or 2 big vacations throughout the year. For anybody that knew Mel was a romantic, and anytime they went to the beach, Mel would draw a big heart in the sand or a big I love you for Jan to make her happy. Mel cherished his marriage to Jan, and she truly made him the happiest guy on the planet. Any one of us that finds a love like that will be blessed beyond measure. We should all be so lucky. They lived in Round Rock for 19 years before they moved to their brand new home in Georgetown. Family was extremely important to them, and they hosted countless birthdays, Easters, Thanksgivings, and Christmases. The Easter egg toss and relay races are still legendary to this day. They used to have a rattlesnake problem in the backyard in Round Rock. Anytime they had a big rattlesnake in the backyard, Mel suddenly turned himself into Crocodile Dundee and went to save the day. He took down quite a few over the years. Their home always had the best food, biggest hugs, and lots of love. It's the type of home that always makes you feel welcome and always makes you feel safe. Exactly what a home should feel like. Here is a recent birthday party celebration for Mel and Jan.
Happy birthday to you.
Okay, what do you have to say to the camera?
Love you, camera.
After 36 years of hard work and dedication to IBM, Mel retired in May of 2016, ready to take on life and live life to the fullest. And that's exactly what he did. One minute he was behind a desk, and the next he was on the beach jamming with his guitar. Jan and Mel bought a fifth-wheel RV and traveled over 20,000 miles in the first year. They went all over the place, from family flights over Monument Valley in Arizona, to mountain trips in Colorado, beach trips to Florida, trips to Washington, D.C. to see their daughter Christy, and the Hot Air Balloon Festival in New Mexico. They really lived their retirement to the fullest. Spending 4th of July in Washington, D.C. with his daughter Christy and watching the fireworks at the Washington Monument was a very special time for Mel. One of his favorite retirement trips was down to beautiful Costa Rica. They stayed in La Fortuna at the base of the Arenal volcano. If you've ever been there, it's impossible not to be blown away by the lush landscapes and awesome hot springs. Some people go to Arenal and never get to see the top of the volcano due to the clouds. Luck was on their side as Mel and Jan rented a bungalow that looked directly at the volcano, and the view was perfectly clear the entire time they were there. Jan and Mel recently went on a Caribbean cruise and decided to give surfing a try on the back of the ship. In Mel's first attempt, he nearly did the splits and completely wiped out. But Mel's never give up attitude quickly kicked in, and he got back up on the board and nailed it the second time. It was a small victory, but very symbolic of who he was as a person. Always up for an adventure and ready to tackle new challenges head on. He loved playing the guitar and loved musicians that played the guitar. He and Jan attended many Doyle Bramhall concerts over the years and made many friends that shared the same passion for music. Mel was always at peace with a guitar in his hand. There were a lot of milestones in family growth during retirement. He was able to see his son Kyle get married to his wife Mariah down in Costa Rica. He was happy to see the love that they shared, and he loved getting to meet and bond with his new family from Durango. It was one of those rare family mergers where everyone feels right at home and instantly connects. Mel's life was getting better year after year, and he constantly commented on how fulfilled and enriched his life had become. In particular, he was super proud to see both of his children get their master's degrees. His absolute favorite part of retirement was becoming a grandpa and great-grandpa to Merrick, Cannon, and Cora. If you knew Mel, family was number one in his life. Becoming a grandpa meant the world to him, and it was icing on the cake of a life well lived. He loved playing the guitar for Cora and playing basketball with Kyle and Merrick in the pool on a hot Texas day. He was just as amazing at being a grandparent as he was at being a parent. Mel was one of the lucky few of us that truly lived an amazing life. Every breath he took, every heartbeat in his chest, every step he took was special. He gave this life and his family 110% of himself. Although he left this world too soon, his parents were right. He made his mark on this world and left behind an amazing legacy. His legacy is one of hard work, dedication to faith and family, integrity, and unconditional love. He passed this legacy on to his children and grandchildren, and that will live on forever.
Hey, 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 baby, hey. Hey, 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 baby, hey. Arms around you, girl, all I can say is hey. Hey, hey, lost your good thing now. Hey, hey, you lost your good thing now. Good thing I know, but I found out somehow.
To the future generations of Finleons that may be watching this video years and years from now, wondering if Mel would have any advice for your life, I would refer you to his favorite poem by the great warrior Tecumseh. Live your life that the fear of death can never enter your heart. Trouble no one about his religion. Respect others and their views and demand that they respect yours. Love your life. Perfect your life. Beautify all things in your life. Seek to make your life long and of service to your people. When your time comes to die, be not like those whose hearts are filled with fear of death, so that when their time comes, they weep and pray for a little more time to live their life over again in a different way. Sing your death song and die like a hero going home. This is how Mel lived his life. This is the Mel Finleon legacy. We love you, Mel, always and forever, no matter what. You make us happy and you make us proud.